This is Shuttle Launch Control. The countdown for the launch of the Space Shuttle Discovery is underway here in Firing Room 3 of the Launch Control Center. We are now approximately 53 minutes away from the beginning of the 4-hour launch period. There have been no significant vehicle problems since the loading began of the 500,000 gallons of hydrogen and oxygen propellants. The 5 members of the astronaut flight crew are on board Discovery and participating in communications checks. The rollout of the Space Shuttle Discovery to Pad B was on October the 27th, and the terminal countdown demonstration test was completed on October the 30th. The countdown for the STS-33 mission began as scheduled at 4 p.m. Sunday. This is a standard 43-hour countdown, but there is a mission-specific amount of built-in hold time. For Department of Defense dedicated missions, the scheduled actual liftoff time is unannounced, with the liftoff occurring at some time during a 4-hour period, which this evening is between 6:30 and 10:30. The final phase of the terminal countdown will be announced beginning at the T-minus 9-minute mark. The gantry light rotating service structure was moved away from Discovery at about 1:45 this morning. After the loading of propellants was completed this afternoon, the White Room closeout crew and the ice inspection team were given the go to enter the pad. The ice team uses a portable infrared scanner to obtain temperature measurements on the surface of the vehicle, and it can also spot leaks or any cryogenic fires. The team also carries a telescope and binoculars for greater visual resolution of detail. In particular, the team is looking for ice buildup which on launch could break off and strike the orbiter. No significant ice debris was found during the inspection this afternoon. This team also takes a last look at the pad to assure that there's also no loose debris which could strike the orbiter at launch. While all of this was going on, the crew was having their pre-launch breakfast in the astronaut crew quarters and going through suit up. After the ice inspection was completed, the crew was given the go-ahead to proceed to the launch pad. The only issue that we're working at this time that could affect the launch this evening is the crosswinds overseas at the transatlantic abort site. At this time, that crosswind component is slightly out of margin. However, the trend is in a favorable direction, but whether or not that trend will continue during the evening is still unclear. However, from a launch vehicle standpoint, here at the Kennedy Space Center, we are go, and the launch weather here at the Cape is also go. So other than the crosswind concern across the Atlantic, all the countdown events are proceeding normally and leading to the beginning of the launch period at 6:30 this evening. This is Shuttle Launch Control. The weather forecast for launch this evening, at least here at the Cape, is generally acceptable during the upcoming 4 hours. Shuttle Weather Officer Ed Priselic at the shuttle landing facility is calling for 2 layers of scattered clouds at 3,000 and 28,000 feet. Over the 4-hour period, the temperature will range from 70 degrees to 66 degrees. The humidity range 59% to 74%. And the winds south-southwest to south-southeast at about 9 to 11 knots. Visibility will be 7 miles or better. On Cape radar, the only rain shower activity is just west of Jacksonville and will not be affecting the Kennedy Space Center area tonight. And at the Cape Forecast facility, their board is green for all constraints at this time, and they are expecting to continue with an 80% chance of meeting the launch weather criteria here at the Kennedy Space Center this evening. Overseas, we continue to watch the weather at the transatlantic abort sites. The concern is a crosswind, and the factor is that for this particular launch, being a night launch, the crosswind constraint has been adjusted somewhat Normally during a daytime launch, we would be using a crosswind parameter of 15 knots. However, for this launch, we are using a 10-knot constraint, being a night launch. And we are about 2 knots over that constraint at last report. However, the trend is in the right direction. Astronaut Vance Brand is in a T-38 jet trainer flying approaches, and he reports that the trend is improving. There are some clouds that may become a factor later, but right now we are watching for the crosswind situation to improve, and as we said, at this point there does appear to be hope. No technical issues being worked as far as the space shuttle is concerned. The crew is aboard and is comfortable, reportedly ready for launch. So assuming that the wind picture overseas continues to improve, then we are still optimistic that we can launch this evening between 6:30 and 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. This is Shuttle Launch Control. This is Shuttle Launch Control. All of the standard weather observations and forecasting normally performed before launch are being performed today. The final phase of the forecasting began yesterday with a series of weather balloon releases, and also the astronauts received a briefing on what they might be expecting for tonight. Over 10 weather balloons of various types are scheduled for release during the last 24 hours of the countdown. Some of these are relatively small, called gem spheres, but are specially designed to provide highly accurate upper-level wind data. Others are quite large and have a tethered instrument package. These are called Raywensons and collect a wide range of data, including temperature, humidity, and pressure, as well as wind. Overseas, tonight we are relying on the T-38 weather reconnaissance aircraft and the ground-based observations at the runway to give us our transatlantic abort site weather. Astronaut Vance Brand is reporting that, at least at this time, the crosswinds are within margin. Some discussion of the forecast, however, indicates that these may fluctuate and could increase some during the evening, so it will be something for which we'll have to continue to do real-time reconnaissance using the T-38 and the onboard astronaut to pass the actual observation to us on what the crosswind factor is. Looking at the forecast for the cloud deck that is in the area, that is largely offshore, and it appears that should it go onshore, it would become scattered, so there's not a great deal of concern with the clouds in that area. The solid rocket booster retrieval ships offshore at this time, about 160 miles downrange, are reporting very nice, acceptable weather. The temperature is 74 degrees. The winds are south-southwest at 10 knots. The visibility is 7 miles, and the seas are 3 to 5 feet. Again, there are no launch vehicle concerns, no problems in work. Crew is on board essentially ready to go, and we are hoping that we will launch tonight between 6:30 and 10:30 p.m., assuming our transatlantic abort site winds will be cooperating. This is Shuttle Launch Control. This is Shuttle Launch Control. The countdown here in Firing Room 3 continuing to go smoothly. We are working no technical issues as far as the Space Shuttle Discovery is concerned. The weather here at the Cape is also acceptable, and at least at this time the transatlantic abort site weather is also acceptable. The astronauts are on board. Earlier today they went through the usual routine of arising and then going through the crew breakfast. Astronaut mission specialist Manley Carter, Sonny Carter at the end table. Specialist Kathy Thornton, flanked by the Thanksgiving turkey. Mission specialist Dr. Story Musgrave. mission commander, Fred Gregory, and the pilot, John Blaha. Following the breakfast, then they receive the usual weather briefing, status of the launch vehicle, weather status, payload status, and then it's time to move over to the suit-up room, put on their pressure suits. In the suit-up room, each of the crew members is suited up individually. Their commander, Fred Gregory, receiving the suit-up preparations. Pilot Blaha with his helmet on. And, of course, the decorum of the Thanksgiving season. Sonny Carter. These pressure suits are not very comfortable, but they are indeed functional. And but they do look forward to getting out of them shortly after they're on orbit. Kathy Thornton receiving her suit up. Story Musgrave donning his helmet. Here is the walkout of the crew from the astronaut quarters at the Operations and Checkout building in the KSC industrial area. Moving now to the Astrovan, the astronaut van for the 20-minute ride out to pad 39B. About a 9-mile trip from the astronaut quarters. Of course, they're used to doing this in darkness with many of the launches occurring in the morning, but in this case it was afternoon, bright sunshine. And of course they're flanked by the usual security escort that will stay with them all the way up to the fixed service structure on Pad B. The countdown is continuing without difficulty here in firing room 3. Once again, no technical issues in work. The weather at the Cape is acceptable. The weather overseas, at least at this moment, is acceptable. And we entered the beginning of the 4-hour launch period about 4 minutes ago. This is shuttle launch control. This is shuttle launch control. The countdown for the launch of the Space Shuttle Discovery tonight is going smoothly. No technical problems in work. The weather here at the Cape is go. The transatlantic abort site weather is go. And the abort once around weather at Edwards Air Force Base is also go. Aloft, astronaut Mike Coates is flying the shuttle training aircraft. Both a T-38 and the shuttle training aircraft are being used for weather reconnaissance at Kennedy this evening. Coates is also making his approaches to the runway at the shuttle landing facility to judge the visibility and also to assess the wind conditions which affect the handling characteristics of the orbiter should there be a return to the launch site. He's passing his observations to astronaut Ken Reichler in the operations support room, the annex of the firing room here in the Launch Control Center. We continue with the routine weather balloons, the gym spheres, and aloft the last balloon reported 70 knots at 40,000 feet. No significant shear, so aloft upper level winds are go. This is the third night launch of the Space Shuttle program. The first shuttle night launch was STS-8 with the Space Shuttle Challenger, launched August 30th, 1983 at 2:32 a.m. It was commanded by an astronaut who is now the NASA administrator, Admiral Richard Truly. The other night launch of the shuttle was Mission 61B with Atlantis, commanded by Brewster Shaw, which was launched at 7:29 p.m. on November 26, 1985. Brewster Shaw is now the Associate Deputy Director for NSTS operations, and he is here in Firing Room 3 for tonight's launch. Whether a flight is a night launch or not is determined by the mission objectives, and the return to night launches for the shuttle represents a gradual broadening of flexibility in the Space Shuttle's return to flight program. All events continuing to go smoothly toward a launch between 6:30 and 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time tonight. This is Shuttle Launch Control. This is Shuttle Launch Control. The countdown for tonight's launch continuing to go smoothly. No space shuttle technical problems have been reported, no issues in work, and the communications channel here in the firing room, most of those channels are relatively quiet and have been that way actually throughout most of the afternoon. Weather-wise, Cape weather is go, transatlantic abort site weather is go, and Edwards is go. So we have no constraints to going during the launch period, which concludes at 10:30 this evening. Assuming that we do launch tonight, the crew, of course, will be in space over the holiday, so Thanksgiving dinner will be in space. The pantry aboard the space shuttle can provide a varied menu and a flexible schedule while the mission is underway. Some of the entree items which the crew members have selected during this flight include chicken a la king, ham, barbecue beef, beef stroganoff, beef tips, teriyaki chicken, salmon, hot dogs, ham salad or tuna salad, even peanut butter and jelly. And on the menu is a traditional turkey and gravy. However, like all the food entrees, it is an option. Individual crew members can choose this for Thanksgiving Day or something else if they'd rather. Or they can eat the turkey and gravy on some other day of the mission if they would prefer. So probably not until the end of the mission will we know for sure if they all elected for a traditional Thanksgiving dinner. Countdown continues smoothly here in Firing Room 3 of the Launch Control Center. Launch this evening appears to be very promising at this point. This is Shuttle Launch Control. This is Shuttle Launch Control. NASA Administrator Admiral Richard Truly has joined the launch team here in Firing Room 3. About the only technical problem that we've worked during the afternoon was the ice inspection team during their walk down found that looking in the exhaust hole of the right-hand solid rocket booster that one of the water bags, water sausages, which controls the booster overpressure, the booster spike at ignition, that one of those bags was leaking. There are 20 of those bags in that exhaust hole. It's been so long since there have been any problems with the water sausages that there was some discussion about whether or not it would have any consequence, and it was found that they account for only about 25% of the overpressure control. The other comes from the sound suppression water system on the mobile launcher platform itself. So a decision was made that it would not be necessary to go and replace that water bag in the right-hand solid rocket booster exhaust port. Once Discovery lifts off from the pad, NASA tracking stations which provide launch support will provide air-to-ground voice data and telemetry. During launch, the Mila tracking station at KSC can follow the vehicle for up to 8 minutes. The Bermuda station can also see the space shuttle after about 4 minutes into flight. And the Ponce de Leon Inlet Station, about 35 miles north of the Cape near New Smyrna Beach, becomes the primary communications link during the second minute of flight when the signal at Mila is being attenuated by the reflective plume of the solid rocket boosters. In the latter part of ascent, NASA's tracking station at Dakar will support from the east coast of Africa. Once orbit is achieved, all communications will be through the pair of tracking and data relay satellites, one over the Atlantic, the other over the Pacific. At this time, all countdown events continue to go smoothly, no issues in work, and things appear to be good for a launch tonight during the 4-hour launch period. This is Shuttle Launch Control. This is Shuttle Launch Control at T-minus 9 minutes and counting. The final portion of the terminal countdown for the launch of the Space Shuttle Discovery is now underway. All events are being controlled by the ground launch sequencer from now until T-minus 31 seconds when the handoff is made to the shuttle's onboard computers. The ground launch sequencer is part of the launch processing system and operates by relaying commands to the onboard computers, which then report back that the commands have been executed. Just prior to coming out of the hold, a number of status checks were made. The NASA test director polled the primary test conductors and the astronauts to determine whether we were ready to pick up the count, and the crew reported that the countdown was indeed ready to proceed. Astronaut Brewster Shaw, in the mission management Coordination Room conducted a poll on the mission management team and reported that results of that poll to Launch Director Bob Seek. The orbiter test conductor has requested that Houston send the stored program commands, which is the final update on antenna management and frequency changes. This ensures that the orbiter has the latest information to communicate with the spaceflight tracking and data network stations downrange, and then the pair of tracking and data relay satellites. Countdown continuing to go smoothly. T-minus 7.5 minutes and counting. The ground launch sequencer has started slowly retracting the crew access arm away from the orbiter hatch. This is the walkway used by the astronauts to enter the orbiter. If there's an emergency, it can be moved back into place in about 15 seconds. We have received word that the countdown clock will hold at T-minus 5 minutes due to a system failure. We do not have word at this time exactly what the problem is. T-minus 6 minutes, 20 seconds and counting. An evaluation is underway about whether or not the count will be able to proceed. T-minus 6 minutes and counting. Pilot has just been commanded to begin APU pre-start. Mission Control is now transmitting the signal to start the onboard flight recorders, which will collect measurements of shuttle system's performance during the flight and played back after the mission. At T-minus 5 minutes, the orbiter test conductor will ask pilot John Blaha to start the auxiliary power units. At this time, however, we still expect to hold at T-minus 5 minutes. T-minus 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. T-minus 5 minutes. And holding. Discussion is now underway here in Firing Room 3 about whether or not we will be able to pick up the count at the T-minus 5 minute mark. Initially, it does not appear that we have a problem of consequence. Ground launch sequencer reports that they are ready to pick up. Word from the NASA test director that we will pick up the clock in about 45 seconds. We expect to pick up in about 25 seconds now. Picking up the countdown now in 15 seconds. 3, 2, 1, T-minus 5 minutes and counting. We have a go for the orbiter APU start. Pilot Blaha is now flipping the 3 switches in the cockpit to start each of the 3 APUs. APU activation is complete. Commander Fred Gregory has been asked to reconfigure the orbiter heaters for launch. He reports that those heaters are reconfigured. T-minus 4 minutes, 27 seconds and counting. The solid rocket booster and external tank safe and arm devices have been armed. Liquid oxygen replenishing of the external tank now has been terminated. Report now that the APU start is complete. Coming up now on T-minus 4 minutes. The main engine final purge sequence is underway. The main engine valves are being checked. The orbiter flight control surfaces, such as the elevon, speed brakes, and rudder, are now being moved through a pre-programmed pattern to verify that they are ready for launch. T-minus 3 minutes, 45 seconds and counting. All systems on board the space shuttle are reported go. Coming up now on T-minus 3 minutes, 30 seconds and counting. All 3 of Discovery's main engines are now being gimbaled, which is a steering check to verify the readiness for flight control. When this check is complete, they'll be aligned to their main engine start positions. Coming up now on the 3 minute mark in the count, T-minus 3:10 and counting. T-minus 3 minutes, T-minus 2:55, the pressurization of the liquid oxygen tank will begin, and the gaseous nitrogen of the main engines will be terminated. Ground launch sequencer has started a retract of the gaseous oxygen fin hood, which is the beanie cap on the external tank. The computers will make a final check to ensure that the vent arm is fully retracted at the T-minus 37-second point. The ground supply of hydrogen and oxygen for the orbiter fuel cells has now been turned off. Discovery is running on its onboard reactants. The orbiter test conductor will shortly be asking John Blaha to clear the caution and warning system. The crew now has been told to close their visors on their launch and reentry helmets and to start the oxygen supply to their pressure suits. We are go now for liquid hydrogen pressurization. Replenishing of the external tank has stopped. Tank being pressurized to flight level. The space shuttle is now isolated from all ground propellant and fluid loading equipment. T-minus 90 seconds. We're less than a minute and a half away from the launch of STS-33 and the Space Shuttle Discovery with its 5 astronaut crew. At T-minus 1 minute, the ground launch sequencer will verify that the shuttle main engines are ready to start. The liquid hydrogen tank is now at flight pressure. T-minus 1 minute, 10 seconds. T-minus 1 minute. The sound suppression water system is now armed. The water will be released at T-minus 16 seconds at a flow rate of 900,000 gallons per minute. The heaters around the solid rocket booster joints have now been turned off. The hydrogen burn igniters have now been armed. The igniters will be fired at T-minus 10 seconds to burn off any ambient hydrogen under the main engine nozzles. Solid rocket booster flight instrumentation recorders have now gone into the record mode. The main propulsion system, oxygen and hydrogen fill valves have now been closed. T-minus 27 seconds. We have a go for auto sequence start. T-minus 23 seconds and counting. The orbiter's body flap and speed brake have been positioned for the launch. T-minus 15 seconds and counting. The sound suppression water system has started. The launch igniters and pyrotechnics are armed. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, liftoff. Liftoff of the Space Shuttle Discovery for its Thanksgiving Day mission.
Roll program initiated. Guidance officer confirms a good roll maneuver. 3 engines throttling back now to 65% as Discovery passes through the area of maximum dynamic pressure. Velocity now 2,000 feet per second. APUs all looking good. Velocity now 2,300 feet per second. All 3 engines have now throttled back up to 104%. The crews received the go at throttle up call, meaning all systems are performing normally. Discovery now at velocity of 4,000 feet per second. 3 engines running at 104%. All 3 APUs looking good. Downrange distance 14 nautical miles. Separation of the solid rocket boosters has been confirmed by the booster officer. Velocity now 5,000 feet per second. Discovery 40 nautical miles downrange. Flight Dynamics Officer has confirmed nominal performance from the combination of the engines and the solid rocket boosters. This call means that we have gotten the expected thrust for the vehicle out of the booster system. Discovery now at 5,200 feet per second velocity, altitude of 45 nautical miles and 70 nautical miles downrange. Discovery now has the capability to reach the transatlantic abort site should one engine fail. 3 engines still looking good. APUs all performing well. Velocity now 6,000 feet per second. Downrange 90 nautical miles. Discovery now moving at a velocity of 7,500 feet per second. Downrange 145 nautical miles at an altitude of 54 nautical miles. All engines looking good. And Discovery has received the negative return call, meaning that it is no longer possible for Discovery to return to the launch site. Velocity now 10,000 feet per second, And Discovery has also received the press to ATO call, meaning it could reach a safe orbit should one engine fail. Discovery traveling at 12,000 feet per second, 58 nautical miles altitude. And Discovery has now reached a point that it could make the transatlantic abort side on one engine should that become necessary. All three engines performing well, APUs all looking good. Discovery now 385 nautical miles downrange. Guidance officer has confirmed that navigation looks good. Discovery's velocity now 17,000 feet per second, and they have received the single engine press to MECO call, meaning they could make orbit on one engine should that become necessary. Altitude is now 56 nautical miles, and Discovery is downrange 540 nautical miles. Discovery's velocity now 23,000 feet per second, or Mach 23. Downrange distance 670 nautical miles, altitude 58 nautical miles. We're standing by for the main engine cutoff command. Booster officer has confirmed main engine cutoff. Booster officer confirms separation of the external tank from Discovery. This is Mission Control Houston with an advisory on the flight of Discovery. The advisory follows in 10 minutes. This is Mission Control Houston with an advisory on the flight of Discovery. The advisory follows in 5 minutes. This is Mission Control Houston with an advisory on the flight of Discovery. The advisory follows in 2 minutes. This is Mission Control Houston with an advisory on the flight of Discovery. The advisory follows in 1 minute. This is Mission Control Houston at 2 hours 31 minutes into the flight of Discovery. The crew of Discovery has been given the go for orbit operations. The orbiter and crew are performing well. This concludes commentary for this evening on Discovery and the STS-33 mission at mission elapsed time 2 hours 32 minutes. This is Mission Control Houston.
Consumer Electronics, by Cotton Incorporated for America's cotton growers, and by AT&T.
This is Mission Control Houston with an advisory on the flight of Discovery. The advisory follows in 10 minutes. This is Mission Control Houston with an advisory on the flight of Discovery. The advisory follows in 5 minutes. This is Mission Control Houston with an advisory on the flight of Discovery. The advisory follows in 2 minutes. This is Mission Control Houston with an advisory on the flight of Discovery. The advisory follows in 1 minute. This is Mission Control Houston with an advisory on the flight of Discovery. The STS-33 mission will conclude at approximately 7:02 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Sunday, November 26th, with touchdown of Discovery at Edwards Air Force Base, California. The crew is doing well, and the orbiter continues to perform satisfactorily. This is Mission Control Houston.
Now, here we're going to take a look at the skip pass utilized.
This is Mission Control Houston with an advisory on the flight of Discovery. The advisory follows in 10 minutes. This is Mission Control Houston with an advisory on the flight of Discovery. The advisory follows in 5 minutes. This is Mission Control Houston with an advisory on the flight of Discovery. The advisory follows in 2 minutes. This is Mission Control Houston with an advisory on the flight of Discovery. The advisory follows in 1 minute. This is Mission Control Houston with an advisory on the flight of Discovery. Discovery has been waved off from its scheduled landing this evening at Edwards Air Force Base due to unacceptably strong winds at the landing site. Touchdown is now scheduled for 4:32 p.m. Pacific Standard Time tomorrow, November 27th, at Edwards. Weather at Edwards for the new landing time is forecast to be clear with acceptable winds. Discovery and its crew continue to be in excellent condition, and the one-day extension of shuttle mission STS-33 presents no problems. This is Mission Control Houston at a mission elapsed time of 3 days, 23 hours, 7 minutes. This is Mission Control Houston with an advisory on the flight of Discovery. The advisory follows in 10 minutes. This is Mission Control Houston with an advisory on the flight of Discovery. The advisory follows in 5 minutes. This is Mission Control Houston with an advisory on the flight of Discovery. The advisory follows in 2 minutes. This is Mission Control Houston with an advisory on the flight of Discovery. The advisory follows in 1 minute. This is Mission Control Houston with an advisory on the flight of Discovery. After further evaluation, mission managers have decided to reschedule the landing of Discovery. The new landing time is 2:52 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Monday, November 27th at Edwards Air Force Base. The change to the earlier landing opportunity takes advantage of higher sun angle, thereby reducing sun glare on Discovery's windows during landing. Also, both runways 17 and 22 will be suitable for the 2:52 p.m. landing. At mission elapsed time 4 days, 0 hours, 42 minutes, this is Mission Control Houston. This is Mission Control Houston at mission elapsed time 4 days, 20 hours, 47 minutes. Public Affairs commentary for Space Shuttle mission STS-33 will resume in 5 minutes. This is Mission Control Houston at mission elapsed time 4 days, 20 hours, 52 minutes. In Mission Control Houston currently, the flight control team is keeping a close eye on weather conditions at Edwards. This is Mission Control. The crew has just a couple of moments ago been told that we will waive off our landing opportunity for Orbit 78, which was scheduled at 2:52 p.m. Pacific Standard Time today. Just a few moments ago, the last assessment of weather conditions at Edwards showed that runways 17, 22, and 23 were all out of limits as observed by the weather people at Edwards because of either crosswind or tailwind out of limits for landing. There are 2 more landing opportunities today. The next one would be a deorbit on orbit 78 with landing on orbit 79. The deorbit time for the burn for orbit 78, our next opportunity would be 4 days, 22 hours, 47 minutes mission elapsed time for the burn. The delta velocity for that burn would be 354 feet per second with a duration of 3 minutes and 6 seconds. Winds are forecast to be within limits for runway 17 for that landing opportunity, and that would bring us in for a landing at Pacific Standard Time 4:31 p.m. today. These are the latest developments in the entry planning for mission STS-33. This is Mission Control Houston at mission elapsed time 4 days, 22 hours, 17 minutes. Commentary on STS Mission 33 will resume in 5 minutes. This is Mission Control at 4 days, 22 hours, 24 minutes mission elapsed time. Flight Control team has just passed word up to the crew on orbit that what the plan is for this evening's planned landing at Edwards Air Force Base. Plan is still to deorbit on orbit 78 and land on orbit 79. Runway 17 has been in and out of limits for the last couple of hours with wind gusts, tailwind and crosswinds occasionally out of limits, so forecasters and the flight dynamics officer continue to watch that situation carefully. However, observed conditions and forecast conditions for runway 04 at Edwards are well within limits for the landing time. Therefore, the crew has been given a preliminary go for the deorbit burn, which is scheduled for 22 minutes from now, and they will get a final go in about 15 minutes. We will be landing, or deorbiting that is, with runway 17 selected with an option to redesignate to runway 04 if necessary. Weather pilot Michael Coates at Edwards has flown approaches to both runways and sees no problems with either approach. Some refinement on our deorbit numbers provided by the flight dynamics officer. The deorbit burn time in mission elapsed time is 4 days, 22 hours, 47 minutes, which converts to 5:10 p.m. Central Standard Time. The delta velocity of the burn will be 355 feet per second, and the duration of the burn is 3 minutes, 4 seconds. Entry interface will occur at 5:59 p.m. Central Time at an altitude of 419,000 feet. Touchdown is scheduled at Edwards Air Force Base at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time. The mission elapsed time is 5 days, 0 hours, 6 minutes, 29 seconds. All systems aboard Discovery continue to perform very well, and the crew is all in place and ready for the landing. This is Mission Control. This is Mission Control. Capcom Michael Baker has given the mission commander Fred Gregory the official go for the deorbit burn. That burn is scheduled to begin 7.5 minutes from now at 5:10 p.m. Central Time. The burn with delta velocity, or a change in the speed of the vehicle of 355 feet per second with a duration of 3 minutes and 4 seconds, will slow down Discovery's orbit and allow it to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. The entry interface is scheduled for 5:59 p.m. Central Time, with touchdown at Edwards Air Force Base at 6:30 Central Time, 4:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. All positions in the mission control room are go for the deorbit burn. All systems aboard Discovery continue to perform very well. The flight control team continues to monitor weather conditions at Edwards. Presently, runway 17 has crosswinds and tailwinds out of limits. However, we can redesignate to runway 4 after the deorbit burn if those winds remain out of limits. Both observed weather and forecast weather for runway 4 remain well within limits. The propulsion officer confirms that both orbital maneuvering system engines have begun firing for the deorbit burn, and the burn looks good thus far. This is Mission Control. Propulsion officer and the crew aboard Discovery both confirmed they saw a good burn with good residuals of fuel left, and all systems continue to perform well. APU number 1, auxiliary power unit number 1, has been started and is running satisfactorily at the low speed. The other two APUs will be started about 45 minutes before landing. The deorbit burn maneuver adjusts Discovery's orbit to allow it to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. That re-entry time should be at 5:59 p.m. Central Time, about 45 minutes from now. This is Mission Control. Aboard Discovery, the crew continues working through their entry checklists. They are on time on the checklist. Everything is still going well with the vehicle. No problems anticipated for landing. About 5 minutes ago, the observed weather conditions at Edwards on runway 17 were still out of limits for both the crosswind and the tailwind components. However, runway 17 is still a prime runway selected for landing. Flight control team is continuing to monitor the weather, and very shortly, probably within the next 15 minutes, should make a decision about redesignating to runway 04 if that were necessary. The observed conditions at runway 04 were a right crosswind of 4 knots and a headwind right down the runway at 22 knots. Both of those are within our limits for landing. This is Mission Control at Edwards Air Force Base. Weather pilot Michael Coates is flying the shuttle training aircraft. Approaches to runway 17, checking out the weather conditions real time at Edwards. Flight controllers continue to monitor the winds and weather situation at Edwards. There is still plenty of time to redesignate to runway 04 if the winds at 17 remain out of limits. The landing convoy personnel are preparing to put on their escape suits in preparation for Discovery's landing. Touchdown will be about 50 minutes from now at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time. Discovery will re-enter the Earth's atmosphere in about 19.5 minutes at 5:59 Central Time, 3:59 Pacific Time. This is Mission Control at 4 days, 23 hours, 21 minutes. The Capcom Michael Baker has just given the crew the decision to redesignate to runway 04. The winds remain out of limits at runway 17, so the Discovery will be landing on runway 4 at Edwards. The vehicle will intercept the heading alignment circle at a speed of Mach 0.97. Discovery will make a right overhead turn of 336 degrees. The bank angle will be 54 degrees with 1.47 Gs, or 1.47 times the force of gravity. Prior to that announcement to the crew, the propulsion officer confirmed that good forward RCS dump had taken place and all is in order aboard the vehicle for re-entry. Discovery will be re-entering the Earth's atmosphere in about 14 minutes. This is Mission Control. This is Mission Control. The Mechanical Systems Officer reports that all 3 auxiliary power units have been started. All 3 are running at normal speed and look good. The auxiliary power units are used to provide power to the aerodynamic surfaces that control Discovery once it enters the Earth's atmosphere. Those are the speed brake, and the elevons on the wings that enable Discovery to turn right or left or move up or down as necessary, and also slow the vehicle during the landing phase. This is Mission Control. Flight Dynamics Officer reports that the landing convoy personnel and equipment will be able to move to runway 04 in time to support the landing there. We're standing by for entry interface, or Discovery's re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere. That is scheduled for about 4.5 minutes from now. Discovery will be traveling at about 24,000 feet per second, or Mach 24, as it comes into the Earth's atmosphere, and will encounter the atmosphere at about 420,000 feet altitude. This is Mission Control. The convoy will be moving over to runway 4 after Discovery touches down at Edwards, touchdown about 30 minutes from now. And Discovery should be beginning re-entry to the Earth's atmosphere in just a few seconds. Also, television cameras were pre-positioned at runway 4 in case of a redesignation, so we should also have standard television coverage of touchdown and rollout on runway 4. This is Mission Control. The data readouts here in Mission Control show Discovery at 370,000 feet altitude, Mach 24.6, about 3,800 miles out from Edwards. Flight Dynamics Officer reports that Discovery is exactly on the ground track and at nominal energy at this point. Conditions at runway 4 at Edwards still look acceptable for landing there, and forecasts are for very good weather on that runway for landing. Discovery now at 295,000 feet altitude, about 3,400 miles out from Edwards. Discovery now at 250,000 feet altitude, coming down about 75 feet per second now. Range out from Edwards is 2,700 nautical miles. Discovery's velocity now Mach 23, about 2,200 miles out from Edwards. We expect our first television of Discovery to come from Vandenberg Air Force Base in about 10 minutes from now. This is Mission Control. Discovery now at Mach 21. Flight Dynamics Officer reports that one of the Hawaii C-band tracking stations, some short tracking information on Discovery shows it right on the course coming into Edwards, right on track. Discovery is about 1,700 nautical miles away from Edwards right now. Touchdown about 19 minutes from now. And we expect our television acquisition at Vandenberg at about 20 minutes past the hour. Discovery now at Mach 19, altitude 215,000 feet, about 1,200 nautical miles away from the landing site at Edwards. Weather pilot Michael Coates checking approaches on runway 4 at Edwards. Spacecraft now at Mach 16, 195,000 feet altitude, about 800 miles out from Edwards. No problems aboard Discovery. All systems are performing nominally. Crew it has been in voice contact with Mission Control Center. Now that we have the Tracking Data Relay Satellite West in place, the S-band blackout is no longer a necessary condition of re-entry. There are some occasional comm dropouts. Discovery now at Mach 14, 185,000 feet. We're switching now to tracking cameras at Vandenberg Air Force Base for our first visual sighting of Discovery as it comes across the coast of California. Velocity now Mach 12, altitude 175,000 feet. Discovery 476 miles from Edwards. This is Mission Control. A Flight Dynamics Officer reports that Discovery is perfectly on the energy and ground track, nominal energy, and perfectly on the course coming into Edwards. Velocity is now Mach 6.9, altitude 138,000 feet. Crew has been told to take TACAN. TACAN system, there are 3 on board the vehicle. Those systems sense slant range information, bearing and heading information sent from a radio beacon by intercepting a radio beacon from the TACAN ground station. And 3 onboard systems aboard Discovery use that information to update the state vector, the position of the vehicle as it comes in for landing. Range to the runway is now 182 nautical miles. And we have a visual sighting using the tracking cameras at Vandenberg Air Force Base. Crew reports they can see Edwards visually. Velocity is now Mach 4.6, altitude 110,000 feet. Flight Dynamics Officer reports the approximate speed of Discovery at touchdown will be 185 knots. Discovery will be aiming for the close-in aim point on runway 4. We're about 7.5 minutes from touchdown. Flight Dynamics Officer reports Discovery looking very good on energy. Velocity is now Mach 3, altitude 93,000 feet. About 80 miles out from Edwards. Crew has been told to take air data. Those probes are deployed from either side of the front part of the vehicle, and the vehicle moving through the airstream provides input to the instruments that help give navigation updates to the onboard systems. Velocity is Mach 2.6 now, altitude 80,000 feet. Discovery now visible through the television cameras on location at Dryden Flight Research Facility at Edwards Air Force Base in California. Discovery's velocity now Mach 1.7 at 72,000 feet altitude. Flight Dynamics Officer reports Discovery is looking good coming up on the heading alignment circle. Velocity now Mach 0.9. Discovery will make a right overhead turn on the heading alignment circle of 336 degrees. Flight Dynamics Officer reports Discovery looking good rolling onto the heading alignment circle. Velocity 800 feet per second. Altitude is 38,000 feet. Guidance, Navigation, and Control Officer reports nav is good. Discovery coming around the heading alignment circle, now about halfway around. Velocity 600 feet per second, altitude 25,000 feet. Discovery looks good rolling onto final as reported by the Flight Dynamics Officer. Surface winds are reported to be 19-knot headwind and a 4-knot right crosswind, well within the limits for landing at runway 4. Altitude is now 13,000 feet. About 1.5 minutes to touchdown. Altitude now 6,000 feet. Flight Dynamics Officer reports that Discovery is converging on the center line above runway 4. Gear down and locked. Main gear touchdown. Nose gear touchdown. Discovery rolling out at the end of mission STS-33 at Edwards Air Force Base on runway 4. Commander Gregory reports wheel stop. This is Mission Control. The television is images from an infrared camera showing the hot areas on the vehicle, and that is the normal plume around the tail of the vehicle. The light parts of the image show the hottest areas of Discovery as it sits on the runway at Edwards. Unofficial times, and a reminder, these are unofficial times. For main gear touchdown was mission elapsed time 5 days, 0 hours, 6 minutes, 40 seconds. For main gear touchdown, 5 days, 0 hours, 6 minutes, 50 seconds. For nose gear touchdown, 5 days, 0 hours, 07 minutes, 28 seconds. For wheel stop. These are all unofficial times. Flight director has polled all positions in the mission control room. There are no changes to the post-landing checklist. All systems aboard Discovery function very well during the deorbit, entry, and landing phases. The convoy is moving over now to runway 4 and will conduct normal recovery convoy operations. Capcom has given the crew information that the surface temperature there at Edwards on the runway where Discovery has landed is 54 degrees Fahrenheit with a wind chill of 29 degrees. So they will feel a little difference in the weather when they come out of the vehicle, which will be between 45 and 55 minutes from now. This is Mission Control. The crew is progressing through their post-landing checklist. There are no problems aboard Discovery. The propulsion officer has reported that both the orbital maneuvering system and the reaction control system engines have been safed. And the crew is moving on through the checklist. We expect the convoy to be approaching Discovery very shortly. Convoy team consists of a number of vehicles and personnel who work to service the vehicle and safe it after touchdown and get it ready to be carried back to KSC for its next mission. Crew has completed safing of the landing gear systems on Discovery, and now moving into place are members of the landing convoy. They are wearing a self-contained breathing system that protects them from any noxious or dangerous gaseous emissions from the vehicle. They move around the orbiter with a sniffer, checking to make sure that there are no dangerous gases present before the rest of the recovery landing team moves into place. Safety assessment team present around the vehicle, using their sniffer equipment to check for any possible explosive hazards or toxic gases around the vehicle as a safety measure before the rest of the convoy team moves into place for the servicing operations on Discovery. Crew's been given the go-ahead to reposition the main engines. Engines will be gimbaled into the right position for the ferry flight back to Kennedy Space Center. We have reports from the convoy team that the initial sniff checks are good around the vehicle. Crew has been given the go-ahead to take off their launch and entry suits if they want to. This infrared picture on the video system shows the warmer areas of the vehicle after their re-entry and landing in a white color, and the plumes around the tail are the normal heat emissions from the auxiliary power units at landing. Crew has completed repositioning the main engines, and they are now moving ahead to shut down the auxiliary power units. Crew has completed shutdown of the auxiliary power units and has been given the go for extended power up. Members of the landing and recovery convoy moving into position around the vehicle, and the convoy vehicles are moving into place. This is Mission Control. The white room and the stairway are in place next to the hatch, and we have data in Mission Control that shows the side hatch has been opened We'll expect the crew to be coming out sometime probably within about 15 minutes. This is Mission Control. The crew is coming near the end now of the post-landing checklist. Everything going well, and they are estimated to be leaving Discovery about 45 minutes after landing, which would be about 6 minutes from now. This is Mission Control. This view is using the infrared camera at Dryden to look at Discovery parked on the runway. This particular infrared image shows the warmer areas of the vehicle in the darker color, with the cooler areas in the white color. The crew of Discovery has already exited the vehicle and is walking around on the runway area near Discovery. They're accompanied by Dr. William Lenore, the Associate Administrator for Spaceflight of the agency. Discovery's crew taking a few moments to pose for some still photos on the runway. They're now boarding the astronaut van. This is Mission Control. The Astro van is now leaving the area of Discovery, returning to the medical area at Dryden Flight Research Facility, where the crew will have a brief visit with their families and a preliminary medical checkup before they return to Houston later tonight. This concludes Public Affairs Commentary for Mission STS-33.